Hi, my name is Elliot Schatzberger. I am module leader for LAW2130, which is business law. The module is all about business, but from a legal perspective. So what we try and go through over the 9 months is we go through every area of law that we can possibly get through that is to do with business. So we deal with contract law, we deal with employment law, we deal with the English legal system, company law, anything and everything really that relates to business. Definitely helps if you have looked at the English legal system before you do the module, even if it's only informally. If you know you're doing the law module, good idea to read a book on English legal system. There are lots and lots of books out there, just so that you get to grips with an idea of what English law is all about, how the court system works, etc., etc. So that's a good idea, but it's not completely a prerequisite. You don't have to do that, but it would be useful to do that before you start. I do get students that say to me, oh, I hate reading about law. So if that's the case, then perhaps this is not for you. Law does need you to read and read and read. There's no question about that. It's not the kind of subject that you can just learn randomly. You've got to be able to understand the principles, the concepts, and that takes a lot of reading. So it means that you need to go to the lecture and the seminars and the workshops and be able to learn there, but also learn outside of that, so that you are reading alongside all of that as well. So really, most students I think really do enjoy it. It's very relevant to the business world. I make it live and breathe, hopefully, so it becomes very relevant for the students and what they're about to do in their professional lives. So I think majority will really enjoy it. Firstly, it's to get to grips with how law works. The English legal system itself, you get to learn a bit of the politics behind it, the way that the judiciary work, the way that Parliament works, and that's always very interesting. It's very relevant to all of our lives. Secondly, I think from a business perspective, you get to learn what's relevant for business. So when you do go into business, you don't get caught out. That's really the idea behind it. I used to be in business many, many years ago before I became a lawyer, and if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have been a lot better off, especially to do with things like hiring and firing and unemployment, discrimination, those kinds of areas. So that's really interesting and really important. The third good thing about the module is I think it gets you to think more logically generally. It gets you to think much more objectively, much more methodically, in a good structure, which is what studying law does for you. The assessment criteria is one coursework, which is worth 30% of the overall total. That's a 1,500 word coursework, which will be an essay based on a legal problem that we will cover quite early on, normally something like a bit of contract law or something along those lines. The exam in the main exam period in May is split into two halves. The first half is a multiple choice question half, so you get 20 multiple choice questions. They're all based on the English legal system, and then you have to answer 4 essays out of a possible 6 questions. So 4 short essays. It's a 3-hour exam. The essays obviously are 20% and 20% and 20%. 20%, the multiple choice is 20, making up the 100. So overall, the exam is 20 multiple choice questions and 4 short essays. The short essays are based on all the other topics that we do through the module. One of the best things about the module is that students email me years later telling me that they've used what I've actually taught them in the workplace, whether again that's employment law or contracts or even bits of criminal law. All of that is very useful, so they'll gain those skills. Students will also be able to gain the skills that I've already talked about, thinking more logically, writing more logically in much more of a structured way, which I think is always really useful for the future. To be able to say to an employer that I've done a law module, that I understand a little bit of contract law, a little bit of criminal law, a little bit of company law, I think that stands you in good stead for the future when you're trying to get a job. I think any future employer will always look at somebody that studied law in a very different way. They will have a bit of respect for what you've studied. Employers know that law is a tricky subject that you have to get your head around. It shows that you've been committed and that you've worked hard, and it shows that you are thinking logically rather than emotionally, which is, I think, a really good thing, and I think employers definitely like that. Generally, my experience is when you've done a law module or a full-on law degree, you become very employable, so it's a good module to do.